4:05. It's the new Foia Friday at 4. I can't hear anything Crystal say because her mic is still muted. But here we go. You ready, Crystal? We're gonna do this. Hey, everybody.
Okay, good.
Welcome.
Let's get rid of that. I hate the countdown. Anyway,
you don't like the countdown? I think it's nice because sometimes you can't tell if it's if you're live or not. It goes well, you know what I mean? Helps
what
you
I
out.
noticed when a bunch of our videos had the countdown is I couldn't tell if it was like the same video, which would make me not want to click on it, or if it was a different video. So that's why I think, just showing the same countdown over and over again will probably not be good. But I'm glad we're all here. Thank you all for coming. And I wanted to show you this interesting FOIA that I was talking about last time. And I couldn't find it as I was scrambling through. But this is really interesting from the Minnesota Department of Animal Health. And
Minnesota Department of Animal Health. We were talking about this last week because in Minnesota, something's going down.
Yeah, there's massive bird flu outbreaks in Minnesota. This is where Jennie-O Turkey Store is, and Jennie-O Turkey Store has gotten $120 million of our taxpayer money to bail them out for bird flu outbreaks. So a ton of birds affected. And this email reads, "This is an obvious pathway for HPAI, as wild ducks are natural reservoirs. I cannot believe that a vet is making this report. This is a crazy lack of biosecurity to feed entrails from wild ducks to your flock. No confirm needed. This is basic disease transmission 101 for AI viruses."
Whoa.
So this was sent back in October 24th of 2023 from somebody from the Department of Natural Resources to the Minnesota Board of Animal Health. And I wanted to get more back and forth about this feeding of entrails situation during this time. So I was going to work on drafting some FOIAs about this.
Feeding of entrails. Gross. Yeah. So what are they referring to, feeding of entrails? They're feeding chicken entrails to other chickens?
No, this guy went duck hunting and he fed the duck entrails from wild ducks to his flock. Did it say what species it was?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that will do it.
Yeah, totally.
I knew a guy in Virginia who he killed a groundhog on his property. And he put the groundhog, well, he took a bucket and he drilled a hole in the bucket, and then he put the groundhog in the bucket, and then he hanged the groundhog in a bucket on a little hook. And so as the groundhog rotted, worms fell out, and those fed the chickens.
Wow.
That seems like people do all sorts of weird shit, man, over on these producers, man. They're so gross.
Yeah. So I'm going to draft. I want to get more information about this particular communication chain about this feeding duck entrails.
Yeah.
So let's see, what were the dates on this? This was October 24th from Michelle Carson to Isaiah Tolo, and maybe MDO report, this one. This would be a great case to confirm at the University of Minnesota to determine if this is a credible pathway for introduction of HPAI into domestic populations. Really interesting. Yes.
Very interesting.
So maybe I'll just FOIA this particular report.
I like how he said that. I can't believe a vet is making this report.
I know. I want to know what was the vet? What was that about? And making this report, if something happened and you make the report, why is the vet at fault there? Like, they're just
Can't believe a
reporting what they
vet
saw, right? Unless there's something else.
unless he said that unless the vet said, well, the entrails weren't a problem.
I don't know what the vet said, but yeah. So I'm gonna let's see reference.
Polo was interested in an interview, says Neil Thompson.
Huh? What was that?
Maybe Isaiah Tolo is interested in an interview. What do you think? Should we invite him on?
Go for it. Does anyone want to email him? We have his email address.
Yeah, we have his email address. Let's just call Isaiah. Let's drop him a line. What's up, Isaiah? How you feeling? You want to do an interview about this vet report?
Yeah. To 2023 to November. Let's not make it too long.
Maybe Isaiah's not even. He might not even be employed by the. Where was he? Who was he working for?
The Minnesota Department of Natural Resources.
Oh, so he might still have a job. Some of these, he might not have been doged.
Yeah. So how do we FOIA the Department of Natural Resources? Well, I just Googled the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources and how to FOIA, and I found this page.
Ooh.
So you have to fill out this data request form, which is really annoying and old school, and email it as an attachment to this email address.
That's not so bad. With Adobe Acrobat, we could do anything.
Well, yeah, or like Apple Preview.
Can Apple Preview edit PDFs?
Yes.
Ah.
So I'm going to do that. And this is the language I'm going to use. I'm going to do a couple of things here. So please send all communications documents, attachments, and photos from October 1st, 2023 to November 30th, 2023, referencing MDO report 217134, sent to or from those Department of Natural Resources email addresses. And then I'm going to do another one just with other updated keywords, sort of referencing depopulation, H5N1, avian influenza, wildlife control, animal partisan, ALDF, animal rights, Crystal Heath, ventilation shutdown, VSD. So we'll see what we get from that.
Yeah, because they might be talking about you.
Yeah. And I'm going to put in this, please send documents as a PDF attachment to my email address. And this fee waiver request, just because, they're going to want to charge me a bunch of money. And this fee waiver request might not work, but it's worth a try. And the fee waiver request just says, we are a nonprofit organization dedicated to understanding government response to infectious disease outbreaks and animal advocacy. This information is for the public benefit.
Indeed.
Benefit. And not used for commercial purposes. So while I do that, why don't you talk about what you've been up to?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to remove here. I've been talking with, not that one. Dang it. This one. I've been talking with ChatGPT about, because I guess a lot of people probably already know that Smithfield Farms, which is the producer of pork, well, they're pig flesh producers that produce 1 out of 4 bites of bacon. So 25% of all pork produced in the United States and consumed in the United States is owned by Smithfield, which is owned by WH Holding, which is a Chinese company. It was a big deal back in 2014, I think, is when the deal passed through. It was partly because they didn't want. There was outcry in the public because a lot of people were afraid that the Chinese government owning our food supply is probably not a great idea. Up until then, foreign governments did not own our food supply. I think there's one Brazilian company that also has its hooks in us, but it's funny because it's not like Brazil has always been a friendly country either. Brazil has not always been our ally. The Chinese is not really an ally either. They're pretty firmly an adversary, and yet they own 25% of the pigs in America. So
25% of the pigs in America. Wow.
It's huge, right? It's the biggest one. The other ones are ones that like Hormel and Tyson, and I looked up all the other ones too because I wanted to know more. Let me see. Tyson is number one. After that, JBS USA, Swift Pork. You know about Swift Pork? That's Brazilian owned. That's Brazil. Number 3 producer in America is Brazil. Number 4 is Hormel. Number 5 is Seaboard Foods, and number 5 is Clemens Food Group in Hatfield, Pennsylvania. So it is kind of interesting to me. I've been to Tyson in Arkansas. It's insane to me that it's there, and I think it's pretty nuts. Anyway, what I thought would be interesting is that I wanted to FOIA more. I'd like to submit FOIA requests into agencies who are answerable to those people, answerable to the people, to find out more about what was happening behind the scenes during this, because there was a public outcry. The sale was it was funny. It was Shanghui International Holdings, and they changed it to WH Group, which I think is interesting because WH. What is WH? Shanghui WH Group, White House Group. Is that what? Whitewashed Group. It's weird that they did that.
It says maybe it's the name of the people. Like it's not listed anywhere what WH stands for.
What does WH Group stand for? Let's find out real fast. WH Wanshu. It's one word. Wanshu. Wanshu, connoting eternity and continents, respectively, as the company's name is derived from these initials. Wanshu Holdings, WH Group. Interesting. All right. So anyway, I thought it'd be interesting to find out what was going on so we can kind of compare it. Now, it's been 10 years. 2013 was when they bought it for $4.7 billion. It was the largest.
$7 billion.
Yeah, it was the largest Chinese takeover in U.S. history at the time.
Wow. How much did Elon buy Twitter for again?
$48 billion. $44 billion.
Wow.
Yeah.
Imagine if he bought Smithfield and then just like closed it down. Like imagine if you were a billionaire and you decided to buy one of these pork producers and just like ended it. Like put them all in sanctuaries and
just bought them and shuttered them.
Yeah.
And billionaires aren't above that. They do that all the time. Google has done it to their competitors. They buy their competitors and then take the experts that they want to hire, and then they just close the company.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, why not? If a billionaire, $4.7 billion 10 years ago, still quite a bit of money. The largest Chinese takeover in U.S. history. Up at that point, who knows? I guess they're going to make their money back when they sell Twitter back to an American company. So there was significant public outcry in 2013, and they stemmed from several key issues: food security and safety concerns. Many Americans worried that Chinese ownership of the largest U.S. pork producer could compromise food safety and quality, because China had a history of food safety scandals, and critics feared this could impact U.S. food production. Now, this is the only question that I ever heard about, because at the time, I remember them talking about Chinese companies buying out American pet food companies back in the early 2000s, because do you remember there was like lead in the toys and lead in the dog food and lead in all sorts of consumables?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I found out there's this thing called clenbuterol.
Clenbuterol.
Clenbuterol. Yeah. You know what it is. What is it?
It's,
If
what meatheads use to get swole. It's
Yeah,
steroid, yeah.
but
And
apparently
it's
it's an
also
edible.
used on racehorses to, make them faster and stuff too.
Yeah, it's also used on pigs to make them
Wow.
bigger, faster. So, yeah, it's against the law. It's an illicit drug, but it's one that was used by China, and it was quite commonplace. They were afraid that that would be an issue if we allowed the Chinese to grow pigs here in America and control Smithfield Foods, because it's not just about growing pigs for food. It's about distribution and buying and selling, import, export. It's all that stuff, right?
Mhm.
So they were worried about that, because how do you know where the pigs are coming from? The national security worries. Lawmakers and security experts raised concern that a foreign company, particularly one from China, was acquiring a major U.S. food supplier. The Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States, CFIUS, reviewed the deal but ultimately approved it, concluding it posed no national security risks. This is crazy to me too, because like at some of the larger Cisco distribution areas, they have armed guards that are working for our foods, their national security. They're making sure that our food is safe. But they're not worried about this? Seems odd
Yeah.
to me.
I just wanna send an update. I, just
Yes.
emailed out my FOIA request, filled out my PDF form and everything, so I got 2 FOIAs done just in
FOIAs.
the
Heck
last
yeah.
15 minutes. We're all good to go. So how
Mm.
many FOIAs have you done today? Hmm?
How many FOIAs have you done today? Well, I'm
Yeah,
working on one.
yeah.
I Yeah,
I'm asking the chat too. How many
the chat,
FOIAs
how
are
many
you
FOIAs have
doing?
you done today? We got to get some information. Clenbuterol. You know about clenbuterol, Ben?
Actually, so if we know it's given to pigs, that would be a good, term to FOIA the USDA, the pork board. See how much they're talking about clenbuterol.
Ooh, that would be
Let's
kind of an
do it.
interesting one. Clenbuterol. See if they've been
I'm
talking
gonna
about it at all. The reason why it came up was because I was watching old news reports about the sale of Smithfield.
yeah.
And they were talking about how Chinese have been caught using clenbuterol and in pigs. So, and they were afraid, well, why are we going through with this and allowing them to control Smithfield if this is permissible? Also, it bothers me, Crystal, that like you see people protesting Smithfield, but do the Chinese care? If what can we do? Do we It's I don't know. I'm all messed up because I'm thinking about the pork board and the checkoffs, and that money, the subsidies and the indemnity payments, all that stuff that goes to pork producers. 25% of it's going to, like, ostensibly or theoretically or whatever, is going to the Chinese government.
Mhm. Yeah.
What the f-
Yeah, when you buying pork, or even if you don't, your taxpayer dollars are going to help support the Chinese pork industry.
Yes, like,
It's,
how could that make sense? People think that their taxes are going towards farmers in America to help them get through hard times or something.
yeah, it's
But it's not
ridiculous.
but it's going to the Chinese government?
Mhm.
I wanna know about the indemnity payments to Smithfield. How many times have they been bailed out? You know what I mean? I'm
Yeah.
sure that there's a
Well,
way
we
of
can look
finding
it up,
that one though.
usaspending.gov.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm gonna try that out. I'm gonna look up
it yeah.
usaspending.gov. I've dug around that one before. USA Spending Smithfield. I wanna know how much Smithfield has gotten in the last 10 years, since 2013. How much money have they gotten? I'd love to know that.
Yeah.
Um, if USDA has given any money to the Chinese government, like even a penny, it makes no sense to me. While we're talking, and it's something that might resonate since we're talking all the time about Doge and uh, you know, e- efficiency and waste, fraud, and abuse. This is waste, fraud, and abuse. We're cutting out U.S. aid in Africa for kids to prevent kids from getting HIV, and we're like, no, that's not money well spent. We want to give more money to the Chinese government to
No, and because the
Gas chamber pigs.
philosophy is the Department of Government Efficiency, but that begs the question, like, efficiency in terms of what? And,
Mhm.
efficiency related to what are you asking for? But according to Doge, it's the idea that corporations can do things much better than the government
Mhm.
can. And I think
Mhm.
there's this, like, how do we maximize profits? And if we give taxpayer dollars to corporations, that could be viewed by Doge as a good investment if they can maximize their production efficiency and profits. So it's all
Right.
about, like, cutting these jobs of government workers, and I think they still view giving taxpayer money to corporations as the best use of money, which it is not actually.
Absolutely not, because it disenfranchises workers. It make it the worker now has an unreliable job versus a very stable job. It's completely just anathema to, I think, the way government should work. But that's a whole other discussion. I mean, the government is there to serve the people, so a little bit of inefficiency is to be expected, because it's not there to make a profit. It's not there to make a profit. It's there to serve the people. The goal is just completely different. Um, the name of efficiency is what gives us gas chambers. That's how we got the gas chamber. Um, and Smithfield Foods is where we get it. What does FOIA stand for? FOIA stands for Freedom of Information Act.
Yeah, like, you might have to lose your vegan card if you don't know what FOIA is, like, at this point.
Well,
Uh
Benji is not living in America, so FOIA, yeah,
Oh, okay, never mind, we'll
FOIA is the
forgive you for
Freedom of
that.
Information Act in the United States of America. We had a law passed 20 something years ago, where you can ask for any information of any government agency you want, and they kind of have to give it to you. They can redact it though, and they can skirt some stuff, but they basically have to give it to you.
And this is really important because we find out how corporations are colluding with the government to maintain consumer confidence in animal-based protein,
Mhm.
smash animal advocacy, and take our tax dollars whether we buy their products or not. Like, how'd they do that? We get all these communications based, to figure out how corporations have managed to build this system and increase consumer demand for their products. So this is, like, why this is so important. And we often find out that they're breaking the law. Uh, and we can get documentations
Breaking
about
the law,
how
or,
they're doing
or
this.
obfuscating truths, or
Yeah,
simply, yeah, or
hiding things from the public,
right.
doing things that are dangerous and then
Hmm.
are harming public health. So, and a lot of people are like, I'm having a mental block on what to FOIA and where to begin. Think about any news story that you have read recently related to animal-based protein production
Well, yeah,
and
that's
what,
what I was right. That's why I was bringing up what I was
yeah,
going through. Like, I saw a news broadcast about, well, we were talking about Smithfield, that it was owned by the Chinese. I looked up, I went onto YouTube, I watched some videos, some news broadcasts from 2013 about the buyout, and then I was thinking, well, let me ask ChatGPT if there's anything worth FOIA-ing here. I'd love to know what was there no public outcry? What was the government saying? Was it argued? Because I know that the government has to prove those things. So I just started talking with ChatGPT. That's what it's there for. The best use of ChatGPT is to ideate, right? To get yourself new ideas. Because ChatGPT is not really good at a lot of the nitty-gritty stuff when you get down to it, like in the granular level. But at the higher up level, where you're like, what should I FOIA today? ChatGPT is pretty good, you
yeah.
know?
And I would honestly go to our FOIA page here. I'll show it up here. Um, and it's in the chat, and
Hmm.
just look at what we FOIA'd in the past, what language we used, and be like, huh, this is interesting. I want more information about this. And you can copy and paste, like, even the exact language we use to FOIA stuff, update the dates, narrow it down to certain email addresses, and find some new stuff. And I hope once you get it back, share it with us. But and we just FOIA'd the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources. Why don't you FOIA the Department of Natural Resources in your state?
I was about to
Or,
say, I know
you know,
Steven's in Oklahoma, and if you're in Oklahoma, which is okay, by the way, Oklahoma is okay, but it's a great way to start going what you see. You drive around Oklahoma, you're seeing stuff, you're thinking about stuff. Start wondering, start asking questions. That's what critical thinking is, right? Start interacting with ChatGPT and start thinking about like, well, what can I find out more about what's happening about the agriculture and the animal protein production facilities in my area? Like, it'd be pretty cool. If Steven, I think like Oklahoma is kind of known for cows, right? Well, I don't know. Isn't it?
I'm gonna have to remove you from the stage. So this is our FOIA page. I just want to share it with everybody. And it's got so much information on here of all of the past FOIAs. We could just scroll through here and have a good time. This is funny. Sorry, this is so small. This, the leader of the American Association of Swine Vets was mad about my anti-VSD activity that occurred at the AVMA meeting last week. And there was an op-ed that was published too, and this is the flyer that we had. So they even scanned in the flyer that were passing out there. So I thought that was pretty funny.
I love it.
I love it when we get their panties in a bundle.
Yeah, that's a good one. But Steven, if you're having a hard time coming up with ideas to FOIA, I mean, Oklahoma it says that beef cattle is the most prominent animal agricultural product of Oklahoma. I would just be like, hey, I want to find some interesting stuff out. Who should I FOIA? What should I ask? Do your first one. Pop that cherry, baby. Do your first FOIA.
Yeah.
And then the other ones become easier. But it's also an attempt to ban vegan meats being called non-vegan names. Oh, that's a good thing too. Oklahoma is also known for being part of the attempt to ban vegan meats being called non-vegan names. Fantastic. Try to find out what date that stuff was happening, and then where you should FOIA. Then try to FOIA what kind of, you can get their emails about that. I bet you the governor has emails about that, and you could probably get him, because those emails probably interacted with a state agency.
Yeah. Trying to see what was like one of the interesting ones that I had gotten recently. Let's see. Oh, this one, Gail Golab of the AVMA was talking smack about our friend Jeff Hill of the, you saw his talk at DMX. A member of the Animal Welfare Division staff had an opportunity to listen to the USDA webinar on considerations for depopulation of livestock, given by Jeff Hill. During the webinar, I'm told Jeff Hill commented that it was probably best to not have veterinarians involved in depopulation because we are uncomfortable with the depopulation process, especially if for economic reasons. Obviously, this isn't consistent with how we have approached depopulation, because they need veterinarians, the professionals, to maintain consumer confidence in it. We need to be able to tell the public that veterinarians are considering the welfare of animals first and foremost. But when it's done for economic reasons, we also need to be able to say that to quell public outrage. And veterinarians need to be involved in related decision making. This helps ensure appropriate methods are used for that situation. The welfare of the animals involved is protected. Appropriate biosecurity precautions are taken, blah, blah, blah.
What do
Our
you think
guidance.
would happen, Crystal, if they just stopped using veterinarians?
I would hope that if they stopped using veterinarians would speak up and be like, look at what they're
Yeah.
doing. That's wrong. Like, it's outrageous that we've created a food system that is dependent on the mass extermination of animals using methods that are not considered euthanasia or slaughter. They're more cruel than that. And they need to be methods that are just the most efficient. Like, we've created a system where depopulation is a thing, where producers are no longer responsible for ensuring their animals have a quick and painless death. We have to
Yeah.
resort to depopulation methods that are not always a quick and painless death. And that's outrageous. I would hope that veterinarians would say that. I hope that now veterinarians would say that. Like, this is outrageous that we've created a food system that is dependent on this.
But most vets don't even know about it. So
Yeah, it's pretty.
which is a challenge, right? But if the industry, like if the chicken industry just said, we're just not going to use vets for depopulation anymore, do you think that the vets would say something? Would there be a stink?
I would hope so. Yeah. But that's always like been the implication too. It's like, if we don't play ball with the protein producers, they're just going to kick us out of the conversation altogether. And it's like, we should not even be worried about that. Like, we should be we hold all the cards. Why? We don't have to play ball with them. They should be following what we're asking for, or else that we're going to get the law on our side and
You don't
hold,
have the cards, okay? You don't
make
have the
them.
cards.
I know. We pretend that we don't have the cards, but we are the experts. We are the authorities here.
Yeah, but
It's
in a
outrageous.
world, I don't know, man. In a world where public trust has eroded in any kind of industry or institution, what does it mean if, like, I don't know that the public would care. I think that they could keep it from the public. Would they even know? Like, most of the public don't even know what depopulation. Most of the vets don't know what depopulation is.
It's because we need to do a better job of talking to the press and getting press releases out there. I just sent a bunch of press releases out today, so we'll see if we get anything back. But are you sending out press releases? Are you guys sending out letters to the editor and letting the public know about this? Like, what have you done today to raise awareness about this? You know, like, let's all work together and get this message out there and change the narrative from, why is cost of eggs so high? Like,
Cost of
that
eggs
should
are pretty high.
outrage you.
Cost of eggs sure are high these days. I mean, and what about Connecticut? Connecticut, mostly dairy, poultry, and aquaculture. Notable production of milk, eggs, and shellfish. And niche markets, livestock like horses, goats, and camelids. Camelids. What's a camelid?
Like a alpaca, llama, camel.
Those are all camelids?
Mhm.
Interesting. Here are, yeah, okay. So, yes, Connecticut definitely has a ton of dairy farms, aquaculture, and poultry. Lots of chicken farms in Connecticut. Thanks for asking. But you could easily, if you're in Connecticut, you want to write a FOIA. Man, if I was in Connecticut, what would I FOIA? I would love to eventually FOIA things like Border Patrol stuff, like, because they are cracking down at the border, and I know a lot of flesh passes over that Canadian border. Has it changed anything? Have they caught more infected flesh? Have they caught more gross stuff? Or does that stuff still fly over the border? I don't think so. I'm guessing they're doing a lot. Informationsfreiheit.
This email is so funny. This is Harry Snelson of the AASV to Michael Costin of the AVMA, Gail Golub of the AVMA, Sia Johnson of the AVMA, Dr. Janet Donlin, CEO of the AVMA, Fred Gingrich of the American Association of Bovine Practitioners, Angela Basinger of Merck. And it says, I just want to let you know that I have seen the AVMA COVID webpage and appreciate your efforts to post this information, and specifically for the link to the AASV depopulation resources. This is a very trying time for our swine veterinarians and farmers. None of us like the prospect of euthanizing animals or depopulating herds, and particularly given our current situation. The disposal of perfectly good meat, milk, and eggs is a tragedy. What about the suffering of animals is a tragedy?
They don't care about that.
The needless killing of animals. No, the disposal of perfectly good meat, milk, and eggs is a tragedy. As you know, the situation is a result of challenges related to processing facility capacity. Food, animal, veterinarians, and farmers continue to carry out their responsibilities to ensure the health and well-being of the animals we care for. We are exploring all options to avoid having to euthanize animals unnecessarily. Now, we know this isn't euthanasia. This
No,
is
it's not euthanasia.
depopulation.
But who's talking in this?
This is Dr. Harry Snelson, who heads the American Association of Swine Veterinarians.
So he knows that it's not euthanasia.
Yeah, they commonly use this word when they're talking about depopulation to like make it sound better. And he's like just practicing his he's quelling outrage in this language. Tragically, however, alternative options are not always available, and the decision to humanely depopulate animals must be made. Now, was this humane depopulation? No, they used ventilation shutdown on some of these pigs. As this issue with decreased processing facility capacity continues, the backlog of swine is only going to increase, thus forcing farmers to depopulate increasing numbers of swine. AASV, along with our pork industry partners, is working diligently with state and federal animal health officials, packing plants, legislators, and federal officials to resolve the processing facility issues and allow these plants to reopen at full capacity in a manner that promotes the health and safety of plant employees. In addition to the tragedy associated with the disposal of these animals, ASV is also concerned about the mental well-being of our veterinarians and farmers.
It's interesting. There's always a mental part, right? They bring that up a lot. The mental issues facing farmers, that the morale is low. It's always something. Jeff Hill talked about it.
Yeah.
They're always talking about this.
And yet, why are they so tight? Why are they, when we want to do like a farm transition and we want to like incentivize them to switch to other forms,
and they're so against it, but you're like, this is a much,
they're so against it. Yeah.
Your suicide rates will go down. Maybe that's something we should hammer on a bit more, is that, hey, because I hear them, the farmers, when they talk, they say that there's all these producers and people talk about the farmer. They're talking about suicide rates on farmers that they're quite high. Now, I've heard that's true for a long time. I don't know if it is, but I'm sure that there's some statistics out there about the suicide rates.
Yeah, it's really bad. And I hate that animal advocates have been like, well, screw them, they deserve it. No, they're killing themselves. Like cult members. They were roped into this, and they think
or born into it. A lot of them are born into it. I've got a lot of experience with farmers, and I had a really close relationship with some farmers that had 300 head of cattle and beef cows. And the boy, he went to school for animal agriculture. He went to school for animal agriculture, got a degree from VTech of animal agriculture. His father was a farmer of animal with these cows. Guess what? Their grandfather was. His grandfather, and the way all their money came from a tobacco license from way back when that they had, and they bought all this land. What do you do with all this? So anyway, he's out there by himself, can't meet a girl because no girl wants to go out and live on the middle of nowhere farm in the middle of Virginia.
This is how incels start.
Yeah.
I want to know, what's the percentage of incels among like rural
Yes.
like
And his
producers.
father would tell me, like when we were alone driving, he said, "I sure worry about my boy. I worry he might do something," because and it was mostly in the context of he couldn't meet anybody, he couldn't meet any friends, he had no girlfriends, he had no one around him,
Mm-hmm.
but he was a hell of a farmer. He knew that place tip top. He grew up on the farm, never gonna leave.
Yeah. I
Like
mean, you get trapped and
trapped.
you don't know how to like navigate,
You can't even
other
imagine.
like everybody's gonna think you're weird,
Yeah.
and that's
And
how like there's this pride of like they wear their outfits, their like Wrangler jeans, their cowboy hats, their
mhm.
boots, like very different outfit because
Mhm.
it's like this us versus them thing. It's like we are the rural culture, like there's pride, they pride in that
Yeah.
because they feel like such outsiders. So they have to like they just, get more entrenched in that outsider feeling. I mean, I
Totally
think of
got
them
their
kind
own
of like
uniforms.
the Mennonites or it's the
Mhm.
same thing. They have their own uniform for that.
And it transcends all their other identities. Like when I was in Vegas, we had the NFR, the National Finals Rodeo, and it was
Mhm.
really interesting because cowboys from all over America come and to watch the rodeo or to participate, and they are decked out to the nines, and they are all wearing the big boots, big buckle, big hat, the same. They are, and it doesn't matter the American Indian cowboy, the Mexican cowboy, the black cowboy, the white cowboy, they are in a cult together. It's transcending their racial identity.
Mhm.
It's remarkable. Like
Yeah.
they're cowboys first.
I look at this document, this Food Protection Defense Institute. Remember, like Trump orders the U.S. meat plants to stay open amid pandemic. So we've
Mm,
got that to look forward to for the
for the
avian
next one.
influenza outbreak ahead of us. Like, those plants are going to stay open. Um,
Well, you know who will be working in them, right?
uh, well, are we deporting people or not? I
We're
don't
putting them
know.
in concentration camps. We're not actually deporting them. We're rendering them at the
Oh,
moment. Like people are saying that we're rendering, sorry, that we're deporting all of those all the people down in San Salvador. They weren't deported. They were rendered. It was rendition. So,
what
I
does
mean,
rendition mean?
it's same thing as when you render a cow, right? You're taking it and putting it you're putting them, I shouldn't say it. You're taking them and you're putting them on a truck to be used in some other way, but you're not
Oh,
actually a deportation would be I take you and I send you home.
hmm.
We are not sending them home. We're rendering them to a different facility of prison. Like these people were already in jail or had been picked up and put into some kind of holding before. They were under control. They didn't pick them up off. Some of them had been recently picked up off the street, but all of them had been in facilities, and then we rendered them to other facilities outside the country, either to Guantanamo Bay or to Panama
Interesting.
or to El Salvador.
Lawsuits from workforce and meat processing facilities. Lawsuit: Smithfield plant forced workers to crowd together as COVID-19 spread in its other plants. Smithfield Foods employees sues over working conditions amid coronavirus crisis. So
Hmm.
yeah, this is what the Chinese companies are doing to us. I also saw the headline of a New York Times article. I didn't actually read it, but it was of uh, some police officer was having the prisoners work on his family farm or
Yeah,
something like that. Yeah, I don't know if you saw
but that's
that.
common. It's commonplace. There's a loophole in the 13th Amendment that if you are imprisoned, you are subject to slavery. There's Slavery is illegal in America unless you're a prisoner, and this is why I think that the people that they're being round up by ICE, I think that's who's going to work in these slaughterhouses. That's who's going to work in these places when there's a national emergency or not. Just when they need someone to do it for cheap.
Yeah. This is this oops. Hold on. Where is it?
Yeah, Dominion movement says I think some parole, probationary, and early release is contingent upon working in some of that. Yeah, a lot of that, but sometimes it's just their enrichment. I mean, that's what they're locked in a box all day. Hey, we're gonna pay you 50 cents a day to go out there and get on a bus and leave and slice up animals all day.
Mm-hmm.
You would do it. Shit, I'd probably do it. Being locked in a cage all day long. Yeah, I don't know.
This is funny, like the pork people talking shit about APHIS, talking about APHIS's veterinary stockpile. I guess it's highly insufficient. They got like 9 captive bolt guns. This is going to be interesting webinar. I will sit on this and potentially ask how what mechanism can be used to update the true needs for such a stockpile, especially in the depopulation sphere. Anyway, I just wanted to share this announcement. And this is what I love about these FOIAs is you have these all of these emails that you get.
Yeah.
And you see how like Prestige Farms, why aren't we in communication with the government as close as like Prestige Farm and Farmgate and Smithfield? Here's a good Smithfield email address. Like it'd be good to just FOIA, I want any communications about X going to and from this Smithfield address. Here's Merck. All these government agencies, Merck, Smithfield, and universities, Zoetis.
What's MB Swine? Yeah, Zoetis, of course, is on there.
Yeah, all talking about this stuff.
And saying that they only had 3 captive bolt things. Is that what you said?
Yeah, I don't know if they were being sarcastic, if that's, but this is this VS National Training and Exercise Program.
You made me think of in Severance, they had a captive bolt thing that made no sense to me, the way that thing worked, because they put a bullet into it. Like, what?
Maybe it was an actual gun then.
But it had a captive bolt that went in and came out. It was like it was a weird device. I never seen one like that before. But then again, I thought maybe you've been around it more than me. I
haven't really.
Maybe some of them do take a bullet and they just have a captive bolt because they don't want the bullet being lost in the animal or something. I don't know. It's just a weird thing.
Yeah. I'll throw the first grenade, right person. It's really hard to make this sound APHIS VS objective, not an indictment of individuals. Has some long-term, has leadership to carry through that with that vision. Not all the stuff I'm working on attitude. We need an APHIS football coach. You've got assistant coaches. Use them to make things happen and set expectations. Empower, organize, equip, and then get out of the way and coach them to get ready to act.
Wow.
John Wooden never directed his kids when they played. He said that if he didn't do an adequate job coaching them before the game, he wasn't going to make up for it during the game. They know what to do and don't have to be told again. Where's
John Wooden? That's so funny.
Where's that? Because that leadership and ability to carry through means that there will be a DoD approach to animal health. Adapt and overcome. What will be needed in an emergency and how do we make sure that that's available? Not let me know what you need and I'll see if I can get it. Case in point, this is like a word salad, honestly. The non-existent national veterinary stockpile, the most glaring deficiency has been the lack of real APHIS preparation for an animal health emergency. I don't see any other way to say that. And this is, keep in mind, these are industry folks mad the government isn't handling a situation for them. This is a situation that if you're a producer, you should take ownership of the animals that you are stewarding over and have a plan in place to end their lives in a quick and painless way if an emergency happens. But these guys are like berating the government for not solving it for them like a football coach would.
Yeah, a basketball coach, but yes.
Or whatever. I don't know sports.
Yeah.
But isn't this like
the only reason I know is because he's UCLA. That's the only reason. It's a California thing. That's
I just think this is so ironic of a critique when it's like, shouldn't the producers take some ownership over the situation? They're mad that the government isn't handling
But
this
what's
like
crazy is that they're the
like a
first ones that'll be like, we need everyone. They'll vote right wing, and they'll be like,
Mhm.
these people who can't afford to eat, they should just pick themselves up by their bootstraps. But we who were born with land and capital, we should be bailed out, and the government needs to help us. How dare they not look out for our interests? It's this is true capitalism at work. Of course, the capitalists should be bailed out by the government and not the people.
Yeah.
I mean, this is I'm not shocked at all. Like, who is represented by the government? Who is actually represented? Who is
Yeah.
served by the government? They
The mo
are.
the most glaring deficiency has been the lack of real APHIS preparation for an animal health emergency. No, the most glaring deficiency has been the lack of producer preparation for an animal health emergency. I don't
Mhm.
see any way to say it. Where's the surprise that we need plans and equipment for mass depopulation and disposal? The leadership to not just have a report a year plus later saying all the lessons that were learned from this experience, but to actually learn from it and fix it for next time because there will be a next time.
Yeah, not to
Yes.
mention the fact that that it's their risky business practices that got us into this mess in the first place.
Yes. Has anyone seen any substantial USDA fixes to the deficiencies laid bare during the ASF exercise? Yeah, so like months before this whole like COVID-19 thing happened, they
Mhm.
did like this tabletop exercise to like plan for African swine fever outbreak, which apparently showed some deficiencies. I may be uninformed, but I'm pretty sure they have been using the same PP PowerPoint since the exercise is done. What we need is someone that are not entrenched in the role of being a regulator. Oh, pick me, pick me.
You're not
We
entrenched in
need
the role. You need to do it, yeah.
we need someone with an attitude of committing, not just saying they're trying to help animal agriculture. Well, I'm not trying to help animal agriculture. I'm trying to help ensure food security and animal welfare, which means transitioning away from animal-based protein production. A regulator is a safe, historical, and easily defended role. A national animal health facilitator is uncomfortable and unfamiliar. That's why our VS leadership is impotent with the current
Wow.
situation need. I don't know how many times I've heard that we can't trust USDA to be helpful. We have to take care of our own, and that's not species specific. Ooh. Yeah. What?
Mhm.
There's so much
Mhm.
more. The inability to immediately respond to the state's call for help is blinding. All I've got to do, I called a few states yesterday, and all the stuff I keep doing, they are not a unifying or leading agency. Even with a lack of resources, there doesn't need to be a lack of vision. What I heard on SAHO call today, we can't be satisfied with stagnation. We have to act now. I'm going to keep asking you for
Mhm.
resources, money, etc., Jack. I'm not going to stop. Oh well, maybe there might be something in there that you can use. Paul Sundberg, Executive Director of the Swine Health Information Center. Anyway, I thought that
I
was
like
really
it.
interesting.
I like that they're talking about kind of like community aid style. Like, this exactly what we're supposed to be doing. Like, we're supposed to be knowing our neighbors and building, sharing resources and having community gardens and stuff, so that when there's an emergency, we can rely on each other and aren't just relying on the fascist bosses. That's what they're talking about. Isn't that funny? That's exactly the same tactic? I don't
Yeah,
know. It's weird to me. We don't have much more time, but I kind
yeah.
of wanted to go over a little bit of like the different tactics that chat gave me about
Okay, yeah, do it.
all right, because about the Smithfield thing. And so identify target agencies. This is where I thought I could really, because I said what, because we always do the same agencies, and we were talking about last time maybe different agencies. So you want to submit FOIA requests to these agencies that reviewed, monitored, and had discussions about the Smithfield sale and foreign ownership of U.S. agriculture.
Federal
The
Trade
committee,
Commission,
I thought, yeah, so Committee on Foreign
SEC.
Investment in the United States So I never heard about them before the U.S. Steel
Yeah.
thing last year. That was the first time I ever heard of them was last year. The U.S. Department of Treasury, because they reviewed and approved the Smithfield sale. They said we
Interesting.
request any internal memos, correspondence, or reports analyzing the national security implications of the sale. Kind of interesting that it's a
Yeah.
national security issue. The USDA, we already know that one, so I'm going to skip it.
Mhm.
The U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, they reviewed the financial filings and regulatory compliance during the acquisition. We should get records related to the WH Group's acquisition of Smithfield and investor concerns and any market impact analysis. Because they would have
Yeah.
done a ton of that. I think that'd be great. They probably have a bunch of graphs and figures and shit. The
Yeah.
FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, evaluates mergers for antitrust issues. They definitely have memos and reports assessing whether the sale reduced competition in the United States pork market. And that's something we talk about all the time because there are fewer and fewer farms, fewer and fewer companies running those farms, those production facilities, and more animals on each of them, which is definitely an animal welfare issue, but it's also anti-competition, which is something that America is supposed to be fighting for, is competition, right? That's how
Mhm.
capitalism is supposed to work, but it isn't serving us and it's not serving the animals, obviously. The FDA, which I think we've done an FDA one before, oversees food and safety imports, any communications regarding potential risks or regulatory changes following the sale, because we know that happened because there were concerns about it, right? Homeland Security might have assessed foreign ownership as a security risk. Any national security related concerns about foreign controls of U.S. food supply chains. They had to have done a study on it, right?
Yeah. That would be
Um,
interesting. I love the
I
graphs, and if we can get some cool graphs and some cool data, that would
I
be
think
really
we
cool.
would. This is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different FOIAs that I want to write for this. Congressional correspondence, because the House and Senate agricultural committees, many lawmakers voiced concerns about this sale. Communications and legislators about the Smithfield acquisition, foreign agricultural ownership, and policy recommendations. That would be great too. We haven't done a congressional correspondence, and,
Yeah.
and usually, and this is 10 years old, so I think it'd be really interesting. So my goal with this, Crystal, is to try to see if it happened. So it also gave me a date of, because the craft strong, how to craft strong ones,
Mm.
and different key terms. The key terms were national security, CFI US ownership, foreign ownership, that type of stuff. It asked for these are some pointers that it gave me, but get the dates as well. But my goal is, since it was December 2014 is when it actually happened, and January 2012 is when it started to happen. So it's 2 years worth of documents. But my goal would be to grab it and see if I can, how much of it came true, because
Mhm.
they had concerns. What happened? What has happened in the last 10 years with Smithfield? To me, it's a horror show because 10 years ago, wait, sorry, it wasn't just 10 years ago. We went from, in 1999, only like 3% of pigs killed in gas chambers, to today where it's like 95%.
Yeah.
So that is a longer period of time, but it's been going up. So it's not getting better, it's getting worse.
Mhm.
I wonder, I don't know, I'd love to see like what they were worried about and what actually happened.
Yeah.
Um,
I think this is great. This is a lot of fodder for some interesting requests, and I think a lot of media might be interested in this too. So,
it might be
yeah.
fun, right? Because then we can make, because what I'm thinking, um, because I'm just spitballing here still. It's just
Yeah.
like the nation. So any kind of, if I'm crazy, just tell me. I'm not going to take it
No.
personal.
I love
So
it.
what I'm thinking is, if we could tie this to the gas chamber, that's what I want to do. I want to get more and more of this,
Mhm.
like Smithfield did this whole, we told you. Like, what if it was, I don't know, a congressperson who's super conservative? What if it's Lindsey Graham, right? Let's just pick a conservative out of a hat. It's Lindsey Graham, who was around 10 years ago, probably made a statement about it. And I'm guessing because he's a China hater, it was a negative one. So if he's on the record, if I have a FOIA email from Lindsey friggin' Graham saying these China people, they're going to do this horrible thing to the pigs or whatever, who knows? Well, who knows what he
Yeah.
said? And then I could say, yeah, Lindsey, he did. They did. And I want you to watch this undercover footage of the gas chamber and tell me what you think. What could that do? Maybe it's.
Yeah. Well, I think people don't care about animal suffering, especially Lindsey Graham. But you never know.
Well, then why are we trying to get people to watch the footage?
I think some people care. And
Okay,
I
that's
think
all that matters.
veterinarians who we went to vet school because we care about animals, we
Yeah.
care. And we were told a lie that
Yeah.
these animals are just anesthetized in the gas chambers. And
Mhm.
we are showing veterinarians that's not true. They're not just anesthetized, like Temple Grandin says in her video.
Okay.
And Temple Grandin herself wasn't able to do the study that she wanted to show what it actually looks like inside the gas chamber. So I think, that's why we focus on veterinarians, because they actually care about animal suffering and welfare. Whereas I think white male politicians are like, we can't oppress and harm others for our own benefit. That's what we do.
Well, not I think that white male politicians still make up the majority of the 535 representatives in both houses of Congress, but they aren't the majority they used to be. And
Yeah.
out of those 535 members of the representation, those representatives that we have, 535 of them, with a few extra from Puerto Rico and DC, someone might care.
Yeah.
And
I think
that's all we need. We need just somebody to care, and they will start strategizing. Oh, there's this China connection. There's a story here, and that's where professional. Then we hand it off to professional journalists, right? We're independent journalists, investigators in this,
Yeah.
and then we hand it off to professionals that are really.
And I do think people tend to care about things and get morally outraged when there's an enemy that they can point to. It's like, oh, this enemy is harming the pigs.
Yes,
How dare
especially one
they?
they already don't like. As soon as that's why this
Yeah.
China thing, there's first of all, some of it's racist, but a lot of it's
Oh
not.
yeah,
A
I know
lot
it
of it
is.
is just they are a foreign adversary. They're the
Mhm.
country that is beating us in everything, right? Like
Yeah.
they're going to own. The reason why Donald Trump talks about the Panama Canal is that China's buying the Panama Canal. The reason why Donald Trump's cutting aid to Africa is because China is building all the railways in Africa. I mean, there's South American railways going in right now being built by China.
Mhm.
So, I mean, while we're still building more military bases or funding more military, they're actually doing stuff, building stuff. We don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
So some of it's legitimate. It's not all racism, but the racism I think helps because they're
Mhm.
an other, right? But someone like
Well, we
Lindsey
don't wanna
Graham.
fuel into racism. That's not what we're doing,
No,
but
you're right. Yeah,
we're
I'm
all
trying to
about.
say that. Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm trying to say while some of it is probably racism, that's not necessarily a bad thing in this case for
It's
trying
a
to get someone like
backdoor of
Lindsey.
getting people to listen to their
Yes,
consciences.
yes.
Because if
That's
you
what.
tell people you are the bad guy because you're eating meat and you should care about the pigs, people won't. You're telling me I'm the bad guy? What? No,
Right.
you're wrong. But
I'm
you're
not the
saying
bad guy.
these people who you don't like are hurting the pigs. Then all
Mhm.
of a sudden people are on board with caring about the pigs. So that's what we're doing
Yes.
here.
That's what I want. That's what I'm hoping for anyway.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm hoping that we're going to have more people just give a crap about some pigs. And
Yeah.
if it's because they just hate China and that's what gets it in the newspaper, I think that's okay
Yeah.
for now. I'm surprised the deal went through, to be honest. They won't let the Japanese buy US steel. They're an ally.
Yeah. Well, it benefits big pharma too.
Yeah.
It's all about.
I bet you that stuff, like the real reason why it was approved, I bet you is in the FOIA. I bet we would find out the real
Yeah.
reason, because why would they approve something like this? All my life I've heard how much work goes into keeping our food security in America, how powerful we are because we grow all our own shit. We don't need the rest of the world. How
That's one
strong.
thing we've got over the rest of the world. We don't
Right.
produce our own, microchips or anything like that, semiconductors, but we do produce
Well, we're
the
doing it
world's
more since
food.
Biden, the CHIPS Act. He did actually do some things, but
Do
you're
we? We
right.
don't produce our own iPhones, but we do
No.
produce the food for the world. So there you go.
Right. All the stuff that you need to live, you can get in
Mhm.
America. Oil, food, water. We do manufacture chips still here, and not like we should, but we also have stockpiles now, and that's because of Toyota, by the way. So it's like, the fact that America has a stockpile now of semiconductors is mostly
Oh,
because of
wow.
Toyota. So yeah, because they had different. They kind of invented this just in time. Everyone knows at this point because of, but just in time
Mhm.
inventory is
Which
something
is
as
what the pig industry does, which was what led to, the COVID-19 bottleneck and depopulation
yeah.
with population shutdown. But there are some
Yeah,
good
so
things
it's
about
it's
when it's not dealing
JIT.
with sentient animals. Like,
Right.
just in time does work
Well, just in time works
to a point.
right. It really works in fast restaurant stuff. Like, so in the restaurant business, it's all relying on JIT. So I'm very, very well versed in this, and how close our margins are, and how much, like, how intense inventory is, right?
Notoriously, Kentucky Fried Chicken usually runs out of chicken sometimes. I hear that complaint every now and then.
Yeah, of course it does. Yeah, all the time. Yeah, it would have to, because because you look at that, you could tell if you look at the building from the outside. Okay, there's a kitchen in there, and there's a dining room, and there's a tiny little spot for storage. And you have
Mhm.
to imagine all your stuff is coming in paper and plastic, and all that stuff has to fit in that one little building. Look at the size of that building. People forget that there's no basement, there's nothing, like, it's just that little building. So they rely on just in time. That's why restaurants and hotels and stuff were really good at, like, that's our superpower is inventory. We take it all the time. Weekly at some places I've worked, we take weekly inventory. Anyway, my point about all this is that um, uh, Japan really got into JIT, and they popularized it with the whole world, and it was Toyota. And Toyota ran into major issues because they had some disaster where they had no superconductor or semiconductors, and so they started stockpiling them. And because of this lesson, they brought that to America, and they were doing it here, and so they were the only ones with semiconductors when everything was going pear-shaped. And
Mm,
so now we're having, like, a strategic reserve of semiconductors and stuff. But it's so
nice.
cool. Yeah, I don't know. I love stuff, weird stuff like that. By the way, I wanted to ask you too, since I have you live, have you ever heard of a show called Station 11?
No.
It's
What's that?
only it's a limited series, so it's only one season. Um, it's, I think, right up your alley. It is one of the
Station 11. No.
it's on Max, which I think you have, right? It's on HBO Max.
I mean,
Station 11, it's about a virus. The flu hits, and it's fast. And it's sort of dystopian and stuff, but it's not. It's more about, like, the way we rely on stories and kind of different ideas when we're reduced to so few numbers. But it's all about, like, how um logistics spreads it, and who gets hit first, and it's so good. And we talk about the flu a lot, and I think it's right
cool.
up your alley. Yeah, and
I'll
it's
check it out.
great. It's wonderful. It's one of the greatest shows. I would watch it
Wow.
again.
Now there's
Yeah,
a hole in my life because of
I
Severance,
know.
so
I was
I
thinking
guess
about you. I
I
was
have
like,
to fill my hole with something.
it's no, don't say that. We're gonna get canceled. Well, I gotta fill my God-shaped hole with something. But no, I think you're gonna love it, because I know that you like Severance. I think you're gonna love this. I think you're gonna get really
Okay.
into it. Plus, it's a small investment because I think it's like 10 episodes or something, and they're all Chef's Kiss. Wonderful stuff. I think you're going to dig it. I can't wait to hear what
Awesome.
you think about it. You have to watch it. All right.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Well, join us Sunday for Ethical Underground.
Yes.
And we have an exciting guest.
We do.
And it'll be great. And
yeah, Ethical Underground at 10 a.m. PST, PDT. Sorry, we're in daylight savings time now. PDT. Please check us out on Sunday. I'm not streaming tomorrow, and I don't think you are either, Crystal. So, yeah, that's it, everybody. Thank you so much. Right. I hope you. Oh, you're watching Severance. You like it? Do you like it?
Yeah. What do you think of Severance?
I bet she likes it. Everyone likes Severance, right?
I mean,
even the bad episodes are pretty good episodes.
It's the best TV show on. It's the best show on TV.
It's the best one I've seen in a while. I'll say it. I'll say that.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. I hope that third season it's just that and it's over. So that's pretty good. All right. Bye, everybody.
Join us next Friday at 4 for Foia Friday at 4, and bring your FOIAs ideas and do some FOIAs
and if you're on the Signal chat and you're having trouble, ask us. We're available. Yeah. We have a Signal chat about FOIA. So if you have any ideas or need any guidance, let us know and we'll help you out a little bit. We'll try to steer you the right way. Yeah.
And if you're not in our Signal chat, email us at info@ourhonor.org and you can join our Signal chat. So info@ourhonor.org and we'll send you the link.
Please subscribe to Crystal Heath and Skyjack Morgan on YouTube.
Bye, Good night, everybody.